Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and today I'm going to be finally doing my spoiler-free review for The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. I do say spoiler-free in terms of the content in this book. There might be some vague mentionings or hints towards things that happen in the first two books in the series, but just be warned, but I will do my best to be vague and not spoil anything. But The Stone Sky is the third and final book in the Broken Earth trilogy, the fifth season being the first book. The fifth season follows this world where natural disasters are frequent and really bad disasters are called seasons. Now, at the start of the book, the fifth season has just begun and our main character has found her son murdered by the hands of her husband, and she has to take off and try and track down her husband, who has also subsequently kidnapped her daughter, all the while the world is beginning to end. This might be the first time I've done a sit-down review for a finale, that's been spoiler-free, so this is going to be interesting for me to navigate this review, and hopefully it will be short because it has to be spoiler-free. But this series is phenomenal. It is masterfully crafted and written from start to finish. I think the whole story is ingenious and so very unique. I also forgot to mention that I fully have reviews for both the fifth season and the Obelisk Gate. All of them are spoiler free. To start off with, as always, the world building in here is still great. I frequently say that this series is sort of like this puzzle where you don't have the outline, you just have the pieces and you kind of have to go and fill in what you can. And finally, we've got the full view of how this world works, the past of the world and how the past has shaped their present. And we finally have things come to a head and come together, and you finally have a full picture to understand the world, and I just love how she went about doing it. All of the reveals regarding the world were really interesting and something I didn't expect. This one specifically does take a more sci-fi twist than the others, yet we're still in a fantasy world, and I love the blend of sci-fi and fantasy and science all wrapped up within this one series. I just think it's fantastically done. Now for the characters, I thought again, it was just excellently done. The build-up and the tension between characters were at an all-time high. The dynamics and exploration within all of their relationships were, I think, excellently navigated. The arcs in here, the way they end, were just so very fitting for the characters themselves and for the series and what it means for the world. If you think of where our characters start off from the beginning of the first book to the end, it's not a happy ending, but it's a very fitting ending for the world and for themselves as people. You can see how their experiences have shifted their perspective and how their experiences have made them different people and how they've changed and grown over the series. And even the side characters have definitive growth and arcs, and I frickin' loved it. These characters are great. Some of the character moments and interactions had my heart breaking. These characters are definitely ones that will stick with me. Now, I think the plot was super interesting because it was definitely a culmination of actions taken in the past. At first, to be honest, it's a little slow and some of the stuff don't necessarily seem the most relevant, but it kind of matters towards character development and growth and stuff. But it was a little boring for one of the perspectives in the beginning, but that's really my only complaint. I really liked the sort of climactic bits and the ending. It was super emotional and heart-wrenching at times, and you could see how it was final and it was coming to a head, and it was definitely an emotionally heart-wrenching thing. I think I've said the same thing like three times in a row. Hopefully I've edited that better. This definitely though had my favorite type of ending, where it's bittersweet but not at, like completely definitive and not all wrapped up neatly in a bow. There's a lot of stuff that has to be worked for. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been finished yet. This story is done and complete, and I really like that. Now, the writing is one of the things that I'm most excited to talk about, because I think N.K. Jemisin is a phenomenal writer. Her craft is like it's unlike anyone else's. She is honestly a genius. The tonal shift of this series over the course of the entire series has been phenomenal. It was always very bleak, and our main character was always very realistic about what was happening, but you could see how sort of this was ramping up to the end, and the sort of drudgery and finality that was woven specifically into this story, and how it sort of shifts to that tone, I just thought was so well done. Like, you could tell that this was finite, and the characters knew that it was finite, and it was all coming to an end and a close, and you could really feel that in like the way that this was written. As always, I like how she wove the past into the present, and how things that happened like thousands of years in the past inform what the characters are doing today, and the way that they're interspersed together, I just think are done so well. I also just love her prose, the descriptions, the way she inhabits her characters. I think she just does a phenomenal job. The pacing was definitely, again, a bit slow to start, but I really like how it ramped up and then was like a steady build to the end. I always struggle when I come back into the writing of this world, because it's so specific and unique, so it's always a bit jarring. Sorry for me shifting everywhere. I also really like the discussion and themes of like what it means to have a family, chosen or not, motherhood and love, and like how far will you go for someone you love. If you have not yet read this, or you have read this and didn't read the author's note, I highly suggest you do. I think it gives even more context into some of the things that N.K. Jemisin was going through and going for in her story, and I think it adds a lot to this story overall. So ultimately I ended up giving this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I couldn't quite give it the 5. The 5th season definitely has the 5 in my heart, but this was still a phenomenal finale. I'm so glad I finally completed this story. It's definitely a series that I will hold in high regard and close to my heart. I love it so much, and I can't wait to read more of N.K. Jemisin's backlist and look forward to the things that she puts out next. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of The Stone Sky, and if you have any other recommendations of where to go from here through N.K. Jemisin's backlist, I would love to know that. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!